Hey kid, you want your goldfish to grow big? It's not gonna do that on Goldfish Flakes though. This is not going to be babies first, I just bought a goldfish today, what do I feed it kind of video. I'm gonna get pretty in depth. This video is for goldfish keepers who wanna elevate their hobby to Super Saiyan level. And before I forget, this video will encompass pet carp in general, so it can be applied to both koi and goldfish. So let's tackle the big bugger up, and that's protein. Most commercial koi and goldfish food has a combination of fish meal, bone meal, and soya. You want to know the best protein for carp that live in water? Bugs. It doesn't make sense though, right? Animals shouldn't grow better when they have access to their natural food. The kind of insect doesn't really matter, though I have heard silkworm gives the best result. The protein in silkworm is the most easily digestible, but the commercial feed doesn't really use insects because it can get very expensive. What they do is they take fish meal. Now, fish meal, the fish do grow on it, but when you're getting to things like probiotics, it has some effects, but it's basically negligible. Bone meal, however. Now, bone meal comes from mammals, koi and goldfish. I'm pretty sure a goldfish never jumped out of a bowl to eat Mr. Mowers. However, when you add probiotics to the bone meal, there is a lot more noticeable beneficial effects. And by beneficial, I mean growth. The problem is, koi and goldfish food, protein base, cannot solely consist of bone meal. Too much bone meal can cause the fish to have digestive issues, such as constipation. Now, when I originally found out that, you shouldn't feed your parrot too much bananas because they can get constipated, I was like, well, what hippie bullshit is that? It turns out you can actually die from constipation. To make a long story short, your protein content can't exceed 20% bone meal, or else you're gonna have issues. So why not just leave bone meal out completely? Because the more noticeable effects probiotics have in conjunction to bone meal, as well as because it does hinder the digestive system a little bit, it makes for far less poop, which makes water maintenance a bit easier. Now, the worst protein source that they put in koi and goldfish food is soya. Soy is not good. It hinders the growth of fish. So why do they include it in the fish food? Quite honestly, I'm stumped. I suspected that it might be a cost-saving method, but when you compare a bag of bone meal and a bag of soybean meal, basically very similar. I think the soybean meal, in fact, is even a little bit more pricier, but not by much. Maybe it's the fish meal that's so expensive that the soya is needed to balance out the protein profile, but help save on cost. That's literally it. Now, soya can be included up to about 20%. Funny how that works. 20 again. At a 20% concentration of soybean meal, it has no effect. Obviously, when you go higher than, I believe, 21%, that's when it starts negatively impacting the growth. And when you're buying food with soya in it, you can only hope that the manufacturers weren't stupid enough to put 22% soya in your food. Let's talk about the probiotics. Probiotics are important because they aid the beneficial bacteria in the gut. Now, there's a couple of probiotics that I can highly recommend. I don't recommend putting all of these probiotics in one serving of food. It's overkill. So what are some of the probiotics that you can use? Aloe vera. Keep in mind, food grade aloe vera, organic, not the sweetened juice you find at the store. And please don't go and put a wild aloe vera plant in your water because it is poisonous and it can kill your fish. Organic aloe vera juice extract. You add a little bit of that to the feed. Alternatively, you can use brewer's yeast. Garlic is another good option. You can give too much garlic, which is not good for the fish. I would recommend about 1 clove of garlic per cup of food. I would not recommend going over that amount. Then another fantastic probiotic is
Lactobacillus plantarum. Definitely didn't mess this up during filming.
There is a product sold that contains this probiotic known as Protexin. I had a little bottle that I was gonna show you guys. I put it down somewhere and now I don't remember where that was. Now, before I explain how to add the probiotic to your food, I'm gonna be talking about this. This is spinach. Old spinach, but like you want the fresh stuff, obviously. They did a scientific study comparing the growth rate of fish in regards to duckweed and in regards to spinach. The fish in the duckweed ponds grew faster. Mortality was also higher. The study wasn't quite sure why that was the case. I suspect that maybe the duckweed was so much that it could have either caused a pH crash or depleted oxygen. I doubt it's a pH crash, otherwise a bunch of fish would be dead. Maybe could have just been oxygen and resulting in the bigger fish dying off first, but the study doesn't really note, so I can't say for certain. But as far as adding duckweed to food, it's perfectly safe and it gives superior results to spinach. The thing though is, spinach is easily attainable at your local grocery store or the farmer next door if you want a 5-finger discount. Koi and goldfish are very much children in that they only want to eat the good tasting food. They're not so fond of the spinach. Carp have very similar taste receptors to like what we have. They can taste sweet, sour, salty, and bitter. So if you don't like this garbage, sure as hell I don't, carp aren't going to be too fond of it either. I recommend cooking it because that does make this garbage a little bit more palatable. And of course, cooking food makes it more easily digestible. Your body doesn't have to work so hard trying to digest raw food. But still, even if you cook it, maybe sometimes they'll nibble it a bit, sometimes they'll devour it, sometimes they won't care. I recommend making this as fine as possible. You mix a little water with the fish food brand you're already using. Here's how you do it. We're gonna take our probiotic and we're gonna add it to the water. And the reason we do this is when we add this warm water to the feed, it's gonna help disperse the probiotic more evenly amongst the pellets. Plants like spinach does contain protein also, but because it's a plant, it is incomplete protein, meaning it doesn't have the necessary nutrients to help build cells, as opposed to animal-based protein. Now we're gonna mix it all up. Then you can form little balls. Then all you have to do is measure out the food on a scale to make sure that you're feeding the correct amount in relation to the amount of fish that you have and the size of those fish. Now you don't want your food to be too moist because when it enters the water, it's basically going to completely dissolve. So if it's a little bit too wet, you could just add more pellets to help make it a bit more firmer. Something I forgot to mention, because this video is predominantly unscripted, you use rapeseed or paprika. That will improve the absorption of the probiotic you're using. Lastly, vitamins. Vitamin C especially, because the fish start getting health issues when they don't have vitamin C. Back in the day when I started with koi, I had so many people tell me how big and beautiful their koi are when they feed them dog food. And oh, how I would fight with these people. Maybe they were just trolling, right? But I wouldn't be surprised if they were, serious. Cat and dog food brands doesn't really have vitamin C in it because cats and dogs generate their own vitamin C. Carp, however, can't do this. Now, on a lot of bags, it does say full vitamin profile. We can only hope that's not a lie. I did not expect it to get this late while I was trying to film. But just as a disclaimer, the reason why I put beautiful in referring to people's koi in quotations like that is because usually the guys giving their koi dog food don't have very on-standard quality koi.